Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a fascinating and honestly kind of secret emotional landscape, the male mind. We're going to toss out all those tired old cliches and look at the actual grounded evidence of what men deeply crave in a relationship. We'll uncover those simple, specific phrases that literally transform relationship dynamics, boosting his confidence and completely changing your connection. So if you want to know how a man's mind really works when it comes to communication and validation, you are in exactly the right place.
All right, let's jump right in with a pretty shocking reality check. When asked about simple phrases of unconditional love and acceptance, one Reddit user noted that he could probably count on one hand the number of men who have actually heard those words. Wow. It perfectly highlights a truth that society just kind of ignores. Most men are completely starved for genuine verbal compliments and emotional validation. They want it, they definitely need it, but they so rarely get it. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to organize dozens of fragmented phrases and insights into 6 core emotional buckets. We're covering 1. The silent emotional craving. 2. Craving appreciation and respect. 3. Building trust and safety. 4. Desire and physical validation. 5. The art of complimenting. And finally, 6. The vulnerability golden rule. Let's get to it.
Number 1. The silent emotional craving.
Okay, we first need to completely shatter the societal myth that men are just these stoic rocks who don't care about words or emotional connection. The data tells a totally different story. Research actually shows that 62% of men highly value verbal affirmation of their contributions in a partnership. These words of appreciation are deeply, silently craved. They might not always ask for it, usually because societal conditioning tells them they shouldn't have to, or maybe their ego gets in the way, but that void of verbal affirmation can lead to some massive disconnects over time. To really put this starvation into perspective, check out this highly relatable story from a forum user. He says, "I still remember this one random grandma at a grocery store telling me that she can tell I must cook well because I'm taking all the best cuts." And think about that. This wasn't even from a romantic partner. It perfectly illustrates just how rare and impactful unprompted compliments are for men. They hold on to these tiny moments of validation for years, simply because they get them so infrequently.
Moving on to number 2, craving appreciation and respect.
So, this is a major thematic bucket, focusing heavily on the absolute necessity for a man's effort, his work, and his role as a provider to be acknowledged. We're talking about powerful phrases like, "I'm proud of you," "Thank you for everything you do," and "I respect your decision." Grouping these together shows us something profound. Men heavily associate their self-worth with their accomplishments and their utility in a relationship. When you highlight his effort and actively state that you respect his decisions, you're not just being polite. You're making him feel like an absolute hero.
Because here's the underlying psychology, right? A man's sense of worth is deeply tied to his partner's happiness. If she isn't happy, his effectiveness as a man feels like a failure. This is exactly why phrases of appreciation are so vital. It's also why letting him handle tasks without micromanaging shows the ultimate respect. Like if you ask him to drive, don't tell him where to park. Trusting his process proves your absolute faith in his abilities.
But, of course, relationships aren't just about praising tasks and checking off boxes. They require deep, emotional intimacy. Which naturally leads to the big question. Why do so many men struggle to open up? Why is that emotional wall even there in the first place?
That brings us to number 3, building trust and safety. Listen, before a guy is ever going to be truly vulnerable with you, there has to be an established psychological sanctuary. And here are the phrases that build it. I trust you. You are safe here, and you make me feel safe. These words are incredibly powerful. They alleviate a man's silent fear that he isn't being a good enough partner. In fact, relationship experts note that telling a man, "you make me feel safe," quite literally makes him feel like Superman around you. He feels powerful, capable, and uniquely drawn to the person who recognizes that strength.
Now, this part is absolutely fascinating. The sheer power of the word no. It sounds totally counterintuitive, I know, but a loving no, or asking those 5 W's like who, what, when, where, and why, is actually a massive indicator of love to an intentional man. It establishes a finite boundary that surprisingly proves his partner's deep care, support, and investment in his long-term success. If you're asking questions and steering him away from a bad decision, it signals that you are fully locked in and invested in his life and his future.
Next up, number 4, desire and physical validation. We often forget this, but guys have major body insecurities too. They desperately crave direct physical desire.
Validating his desirability requires being direct. Say things like, "You are handsome," "You are sexy," "I see you," and actively initiate intimacy. There's a big difference between handsome and sexy, by the way, and he definitely wants to be both. If he's been hitting the gym, dropping an "I see you" completely bolsters his ego. And regarding intimacy, stepping up and initiating reminds him that he's physically wanted, which totally silences any unspoken doubts he might be harboring about his appeal.
Which brings us to number 5, the art of complimenting. Okay, so we know what buckets to hit, but how do we make these words actually stick? What's really interesting here is the difference between a basic compliment and an advanced one. A basic compliment focuses on genetics, like, "You have nice eyes." It's nice, sure, but he didn't choose his eyes. An advanced compliment focuses on his choices. For example, if he's great at playing the guitar, don't just say, "You're so talented." Compliment the hidden trait that got him there. "I admire your discipline to practice every single day." Complimenting his character traits holds so much more sentimental weight.
To show you just how sticky these unique compliments can be, listen to this story from a relationship expert recalling a childhood school disco. They did the silly little spin, and someone simply said, "You're fun, I like you." And they were 11 years old. Never forgot it. Why? Because people are used to having 90% of their personalities go completely unnoticed. When you become the person who actually sees and validates that hidden 90%, his quirky humor, his unique way of solving a problem, you create an absolutely unforgettable bond.
And finally, number 6, the vulnerability golden rule.
We've reached the climax of the explainer here. This is absolutely the most critical rule for maintaining a man's emotional openness once you've successfully created that safe space. The crucial point is how you handle his vulnerability when he finally takes the mask off. Here are the steps. First, listen actively. Sometimes offering silence and just a nod is exactly what he needs. He isn't always looking for you to fix it. Second, show physical touch or affection, like a simple hug or touching his face to reassure him. And third, and this is paramount, guys, never weaponize his words in a future argument. True emotional connection requires absolute safety and non-judgment.
Someone on an Ask Men advice forum made this abundantly clear. They said, if you throw that sensitive information back in his face, the store is closed indefinitely. If a man opens up about a deep insecurity and it is later used against him to score points in a fight, you won't just lose that argument, you will lose that side of him for life. Violating that trust has severe relationship-ending consequences, so just don't do it.
So, to bring it all together, the core takeaway is simple. Simple words, consistently applied, will completely transform his confidence and your connection. We aren't talking about grand, expensive gestures here. We're just talking about verbalizing the appreciation, the attraction, and the trust that you probably already feel, but maybe just haven't been saying out loud.
Which leaves us with one final, really important question to consider. What is the one compliment he is waiting to hear from you today? Think about his recent efforts, his hidden traits, or just how safe he makes you feel. Take what you've learned from this explainer, go to the man in your life, and just speak those words. You might just be amazed at the hero that emerges.